What's going on, everybody? Today we're bringing you a little Q&A action. It's been a while since we've done one of these videos, so I tend to not be too active on Instagram in terms of like the whole questions thing, so I always think it's fun to do these videos whenever I do them and see what y'all want to know about. So we're gonna jump right in, and the first question is probably the easiest I have to answer. It is, what is your least favorite event? I have two, keg toss and truck pull. So obviously I'm not that great at either of them. So typically with throwing events, obviously being 5'10", pretty big disadvantage being shorter in that event because my release point, you know, to where we have to throw the bars or to throw the kegs over the bar is much lower than what the taller guys have to. You know, you think back to when I was competing against, you know, Thor or Brian or all those guys, they're nearly a foot taller than me. So when they release the kegs over the bar, they actually have to throw the keg about a foot less than I do. So that's why I hate that event. Second event is the truck pull. It's just one of those events, mass moves mass. I've never historically been that great at it. I train it extremely hard when we have it in a show, but never really turns into that much difference in terms of placings. So yeah, those would have to be my least two favorite. And with the truck pull, it just hurts because you have to fit your fat feet in tiny rock climbing shoes, and it's just uncomfortable. Next question, how much sleep do you need per night? And do you take any power naps during the day? I wish I had time to take power naps during the day because I 100% would, but I don't. So in terms of sleep, it's kind of one of the things I really do prioritize because my schedule is so busy and I don't have time in my day or really in my weeks to dedicate to true recovery and, you know, PT and body work and stuff like that. Sleep is really what I can control. So typically I'm in bed around 9:30 every night, and I try to keep my wake up time pretty consistent between 5 and 6 a.m. every single day, depending on what I'm doing that day. So, you know, averaging at least 7, 8, maybe 9 hours of sleep every night, minimum 7 at the lowest amount. Next question is, how is life since cancer? Pretty dope. A little bit lighter on the right side though. So as you all know, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer in July of last year. Luckily, I did just have my 9-month checkup and everything came back swimmingly. So all of my labs are good, my tumor markers aren't elevated, and my CT scan looked A-okay. So that's pretty much what life looks like for me in terms of having testicular cancer. Because it was a stage 1 seminoma, we caught it nice and early. There was no need for radiation or chemo, which I'm unbelievably grateful for, but what we're doing is something called active monitoring. So I am going back to the doctor every 3 to 6 months. Well, actually for 2 years, it's every 3 months. I have to get blood work and a CT scan done. The following 2 years, it's every 6 months, and then one time on the 5-year anniversary where I have to get the blood work and CT scan done. After that, I can officially be deemed cancer-free. As of right now, I'm in remission, but everything is looking good. If you weren't a strongman, what would you be? So, I'm actually not just a strongman right now. So I actually do work a full-time job still as a certified athletic trainer. Those of you that aren't familiar with the profession, if you're not in the United States, or if you are in the United States and you don't know what we are not personal trainers, we are healthcare professionals. You know, and I am trained in the prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation of injuries. So I actually work at a high school with all the athletic teams there and all their athletes in terms of on-field care of injuries, concussion management, post-operative rehab, you know, taping, bracing, kind of really the whole 9 yards in terms of athletic injuries. That's what I do as a real job, as this is just my fun job. So that's what I'd be doing full time if strongman really weren't in the picture. That was actually my first passion. I started interning with my high school athletic trainer when I was a sophomore in high school, so in 10th grade. And it was one of my first passions. It really is what I went to college for. It's what I saw myself always doing, and then, you know, decided to lift some things along the way and got pretty good at that as well. When you find yourself completely drained mentally, what reignites the spark to press on? So this is something I touched upon a little bit a couple of videos ago in terms of where I was at in my training leading up to the Arnold Strongman Classic. I wasn't having great training. I was unmotivated every time I stepped into the gym. Yeah, I was actually at the point where every time I got to the gym, my first thought was, I just want to leave, or how long until I can go home. So I really had to take a step back, think, why was I having these thoughts? And for me, it came down to I felt that I was spreading myself so thin across all these different projects I was trying to do and everything I was trying to do in my life that I wasn't able to enjoy the moments I was in while I was doing them. So, dialed a few things back. Luckily, I have an amazing husband who helped me kind of get my calendar under control and helped me out a little bit. And once I was able to start stringing along a couple of good training sessions, that's what got me re-excited to start training and really hitting it hard again. And when I say like good training sessions, I don't necessarily mean hitting PRs or absolutely crushing it, or all I mean is like I finished the workout like I was supposed to, right? Like to me at that point, that was a good training session and I was really excited about that. And I felt good after the workout. So I think in those moments when you're really down and you're just drained and exhausted and you don't want to do it, try to find really small things that you know are achievable without seeming like you have to stride too far for them, and take those little wins and help them motivate you along the way. What is one general tip many amateurs could benefit from in their training? The biggest thing I can tell you is not to take any of this too seriously. I think that's one thing, especially in the world of social media and with the popularity of strongman growing so much, that everybody automatically thinks that they should be winning contests, that they should be hitting PRs every time in the gym, and that's just not reality. So take away all that noise and just realize why you're doing this in the first place and have fun with it. That's why I feel I was so successful in terms of my amateur career and getting to this level as being one of the smaller athletes, is because my entire time coming up through the 200-pound weight class or the U90s, then the 105 or the 231s, and then up into heavyweights, is I was just having a good time learning about the sport and competing as much as possible. And what I notice about myself is when I do take myself too seriously and I put too much pressure on myself, I end up competing worse than I normally would if I just have fun. Perfect example, at the Arnold this past year, my training was going great. I didn't know how I was gonna place. I had the goal of top 5, but I wanted to know, like when I was stepping out onto the competition floor, I was just gonna have a blast because I was getting to soak in the fact that I was competing back at the Arnold for my second time in front of 5,000 to 8,000 people, however many were there. And my honest goal was just to have fun, and was in first place for the first 3 events, had a horrible frame carry, was kind of down on myself, and right before the stone event, the final event, Joey looked at me and was just like, just go and have fun. Like, that's what you came here to do. And it was at that moment I was like, you're right. Like, I'm here to just have a good time. And even though I zeroed that event, I was still smiling. I was still happy to be out on that floor just doing what I love to do. The last question relates a little bit to what I just said. How do you overcome the size difference for height events? So the big thing in terms of the size difference is really what helped me is I became a student of the sport and started studying what techniques worked for different athletes and tried to adapt those to my body type and to what my strength ability allowed me to do. That's why we saw me doing a lot of strict pressing before I injured my tricep, and overall getting really good at the events I knew I could be good at, like yoke walk, overhead pressing events, deadlifting events, obviously squatting events now. Some of that more static stuff, being nice and fast, because in strongman, obviously we have a lot of medleys, we have carrying events, we have things we need to be quick on our feet with, so having quick transitions, being able to run fast in between events, controlling those variables is what made it possible for me to get to this event and still succeed. Now when it comes to, events that just favor the tall guys, you think of keg toss, I already talked about that and I hate it. We look at Atlas stones with the platform sometimes being high. Well, luckily I have a good press so I can get the first stone up onto the platform. It's just being able to adapt the event in a way that suits you and you can make work for yourself. Overall, that's pretty much all the good questions I got. The other ones were meh. So absolutely love answering all of your questions all the time. These are always so much fun getting to know you, what you guys want to know from me. If you want to see us do this more regularly, comment down below. As always, check out all of my sponsors down below in the description. And until next time, peace out.